Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down some pretty heady philosophy into a practical toolkit that you can actually use for your everyday thinking. You know, philosophy is supposed to be this grand path to wisdom, right? But let's be honest, for a lot of us, it feels more like walking into a maze where every turn just leads to another confusing dead end. So is it really a tool for clarity, or is it just a recipe for a total mental meltdown? So what's the deal? Why does this amazing tool for thinking often feel like it needs a big ol' warning label? Well, the source material for this explainer has a really fascinating take on this exact danger. The source warns us about what it calls a full throttle approach to thinking. It's that feeling when you're just questioning everything all at once, and that unchecked enthusiasm without any kind of framework can get you completely lost in the woods of your own mind. And I think this source just nails it by comparing philosophy to a powerful tool, like a really sharp knife. In the right hands, you can use it to build incredible things, to construct real understanding. But if you're not careful, that exact same tool can lead to confusion, despair, and a whole lot of mental turmoil. Okay, so how do we actually use this powerful tool without, hurting ourselves? What we need is a reliable map. We need a compass to guide our reasoning so we don't get lost. And this is where things get really cool. The source gives us this brilliant framework built on 4 core concepts. And if you can get a handle on these 4 dimensions, you can stop your thinking from tying itself into knots. All right, so let's break down each of these 4 essential points on our compass. Think of them like the north, south, east, and west of clear thinking. First up is the absolute. Now, don't let the word scare you. It's not some weird, abstract concept. Just think of it as the stable ground you're standing on, the defined reality you're operating in. It's basically the game board. So on that game board, our absolute, we have the relative. This is just all the different pieces, all the neutral possibilities and choices that are available. And the key thing here is that they're just options. We're not calling them good or bad, not yet anyway. Next up, the subjective. And this is where you come in. This is your personal interaction with all those relative options. It's your judgment call. It's you deciding, okay, this seems right for me, or nope, that is not going to work for me. And finally, we get to the objective dimension. This is the ultimate reality check. It's where the real world steps in and tells you whether your subjective choice actually works. Does it provide a consistent, practical benefit? Does it have real utility? That's the objective test. Okay, so that's the theory. Now let's see how this whole thing actually works in practice. How it helps untangle some of those super frustrating knots we get into when we're trying to reason things out. The source gives us this absolutely perfect metaphor to make it all click. So imagine a big table. That's the absolute. That's your reality. And on that table, you've got all these different dishes of food. Those dishes, those are all the relative options. They're just there. And here is the most important part. So listen close. You cannot confuse the fact that the food is just sitting there, the relative, with your personal feeling about it, the subjective. You choosing a dish, that's your subjective act. But whether that food actually nourishes you or, gives you food poisoning, that is the objective outcome. See the difference? What's really powerful about this is what it reveals about how we prove and disprove ideas, especially when it's just one person's experience up against what literally everybody else thinks. So, get this. You could have pretty much the entire world, 7 billion people, subjectively believing that a certain idea is totally useless. They could all dismiss it and say, nah, that has no real-world value. But it only takes one single person to show that that same idea provides a consistent, objective benefit. Just one person who can get a repeatable, useful result is enough to challenge that massive consensus. And this part's so important. That one person proving it works doesn't suddenly make everyone else's opinion wrong. It simply proves that the majority opinion can't claim to be the one and only truth anymore. It confirms that a new valid possibility really does exist. All right, so let's wrap this all up into your takeaway toolkit. Number 1, know your domain, your absolute. 2, see all the options on the table without judging them yet. That's the relative. 3, make your personal choice, your subjective call. And finally, number 4, test that choice against reality to see if it has consistent, real value. That's the objective. At the end of the day, this whole framework is about putting you back in the driver's seat. It's about shifting from being a passenger who's just getting tossed around by confusing thoughts to being the navigator, the one who's holding the compass. So the question is, are you ready to pick up that tool and start the journey?